5 different football federations, 5 separate letters to headquarters in Zurich, one tournament that was supposed to be the biggest celebration the sport has ever staged, and instead it has turned into the most disputed World Cup in more than 60 years. Egypt wrote about a referee. Belgium wrote about a red card that stopped counting. Ecuador wrote about car horns and fireworks outside a hotel window at 1 in the morning. Iran wrote about a border they had to cross and recross before every single match. Brazil wrote about a goal a machine took away. None of these federations coordinated with each other. None of them share a language, a continent, or a locker room. And yet all 5 ended up writing to the exact same address, using almost the exact same phrase, equal conditions. FIFA answered exactly one of them. And the answer it gave may end up being remembered as the moment this World Cup stopped being about football and started being about power. Let's go back to the 12th of May, weeks before a single ball was kicked in anger. FIFA quietly sent out circular number 16 to every one of the 48 federations competing in this tournament. Buried inside the routine paperwork, among ticket allocations and hotel logistics, was one unremarkable sentence. A straight red card carries an automatic one-match ban. No hearing required, no appeal. Nothing to argue about because there was nothing left to decide. Nobody in any press office flagged it. It sat in 48 identical folders, unread a second time, gathering dust, the way procedural memos always do. Nobody could have guessed that this single throwaway line would become the most quoted document of the entire tournament, and that the federation citing it loudest would somehow still end up losing. Before we get to that fight, though, we need to talk about a plane because the paper trail doesn't start with a card. It starts with a border crossing that happens over and over again. Iran arrived at this World Cup already fighting a battle no other team in the competition had to face. Several members of their staff were denied visas to enter the United States outright. Unlike every other squad, Iran could not simply set up a training base in Arizona and stay there for the group stage. Instead, they built their camp across the border in Tijuana, Mexico, and commuted back and forth for every fixture. The terms handed to them were rigid. Enter the United States the day before a match, leave the country the evening the match ends, then cross back into Mexico and repeat the whole process for the next city. Los Angeles again, then Seattle. Land. Play, leave, land, play, leave. Iran opened the tournament against New Zealand, and the match finished 2 goals apiece. Afterward, their head coach, Amir Galanoy, stood in front of the cameras and called his own team the most oppressed side in the entire competition. FIFA president Gianni Infantino walked into Iran's locker room in Los Angeles that same night. There were photographs, there were handshakes, there were smiles for the cameras. And then, almost immediately after, the Football Federation of Iran filed a formal written complaint. Their language was careful, and it is worth reading closely because nearly every federation that followed made almost the identical argument in almost the identical words. The conditions imposed on them, Iran wrote, did not match the promise that every participating nation would compete under equal conditions. Iran's actual request was modest. 2 nights in the host city before a match, and 1 night afterward. That's the entire ask. The Department of Homeland Security responded by noting that Iran had agreed to these travel terms before the tournament began. Technically true. But agreeing to a condition and being offered any real choice in the matter are 2 very different things, and everyone involved understood that perfectly well. The letter went into a drawer. Outside Iran, almost nobody noticed. A visa dispute isn't exactly gripping television. Then in Miami, something happened that was gripping television because it happened to the best attacker on the planet. Brazil were closing out their group stage against Scotland. Vinicius Jr. had already scored once. Around the 21st minute, he stripped the ball off Jack Hendry, rounded the goalkeeper, and slotted it home. The Mexican referee Cesar Ramos pointed straight to the center circle, goal given. Then the video review booth called him over to the monitor. After watching the replay, Ramos reversed himself and ruled that Vinicius had fouled Hendry in the build-up. The goal was wiped off the board. Brazil still won 3-0 and still finished top of their group, so nothing about the actual result changed. And that is exactly why Brazil filed a complaint anyway. It wasn't really about the scoreline, it was a warning shot. The Brazilian Football Confederation wrote directly to Infantino, read their letter closely, and you notice something interesting. They barely argue the call itself was wrong. Their real complaint is that video review is only supposed to intervene when there's a clear and obvious officiating error, and this, in their view, was neither clear nor obvious. To make their point, they cited a different goal from earlier in the tournament, Lionel Messi's opener against Austria, and asked in writing why a nearly identical build-up challenge had been allowed to stand in that match but not in theirs. They also raised something a lawyer would notice long before a fan would. No Scottish player on the pitch had appealed for a foul. Nobody expected a review at all. The only people in the stadium who thought a foul had occurred were officials sitting in front of a screen. Brazil didn't just ask for an apology, they asked formally that Cesar Ramos never be assigned to another Brazil match for the rest of the tournament, or ever again. 2 letters now sit in Zurich, one about a border, one about a monitor. Different continents, no connection to each other whatsoever. A tournament that was marketed as a celebration of global unity was quietly becoming the single most contested World Cup ever organized. And a 3rd letter was already being drafted in a Mexico City hotel room at 1 a.m. Ecuador had already had a miserable day before the noise even started. Traveling from their training base in Columbus, Ohio, the flight alone took 9 hours, and they arrived at their hotel 3 hours and 20 minutes behind schedule. Their head coach, Sebastian Bekice, described it to reporters afterward in the flat, exhausted tone of a man who had simply run out of things left to be surprised by. The hotel was the Westin Santa Fe. That night, Mexican supporters gathered outside it in a long line of cars. What followed has an actual name in Mexican football culture, La Serenata, the Serenade. The Associated Press has called the tradition deep-rooted and hugely divisive, which is really just a polite way of saying that half the country treats it as harmless custom and the other half knows exactly what it's designed to do. Loudspeakers, car horns held down for minutes at a stretch, motorcycles revved directly beneath hotel windows, chanting, fireworks aimed at the building itself, some reportedly launched from a nearby rooftop. Camera crews caught Ecuador's players standing at their curtains, staring down at the chaos below. Riot police showed up around midnight. The noise didn't stop until the early hours of the morning. The following evening, Ecuador walked out at the stadium against the host nation and lost. Julian Quiñones scored, Raúl Jiménez scored, Ecuador went home. Before kickoff had even happened, the Ecuadorian Football Federation had already filed its own complaint, and its wording was, once again, almost interchangeable with Iran's. This kind of conduct, they wrote, comes nowhere close to the principles of fair play, fairness, and unity that a World Cup is supposed to represent. Fair play, fairness, equal conditions. It's 3 federations, 3 continents, 1 shared vocabulary of grievance. Then, on the 1st of July in Santa Clara, a single stray footstep on a defender's ankle turned this whole simmering paper trail into a genuine crisis over FIFA's own rulebook. Folarin Balogun, the leading scorer for the host nation, caught Tarek Muharrimovic of Bosnia and Herzegovina on the ankle during a challenge in the 64th minute. The Brazilian referee, Rafael Klaus, checked the pitchside monitor and sent Balogun off. The United States went on to win 2-0 regardless. Whether the tackle deserved a red card at all is genuinely debatable, and plenty of neutral observers sided with Balogun's own view that a yellow card would have been the fairer call. But the punishment that followed a straight red was never supposed to be up for debate. Under Circular Number 16, there is nothing to weigh and nobody to consult. Red card equals automatic 1-match ban. Full stop. Every single other player sent off at this World Cup in every other match served that ban without exception. Then the President of the United States picked up the phone and called the President of FIFA. Donald Trump confirmed the call himself, on camera in the Oval Office, in a sprawling 8-minute answer to reporters. He said flatly that he didn't think the tackle was a foul at all. He admitted he wasn't entirely sure what a red card even was, and he said he asked Infantino for a review. On Sunday, the 5th of July, one day before the United States were due to face Belgium in the round of 16, FIFA announced that Balogun's automatic ban would be suspended for a probationary period of 1 year, citing Article 27 of its own disciplinary code, a provision that technically allows an independent legal panel to place a sanction on hold. FIFA had never once applied that mechanism to a red card at a World Cup before, not in more than 60 years of the tournament's history. Infantino later told reporters in Seattle that he had explained to Trump during their call that the matter would be decided by FIFA's independent judicial bodies, regardless of any outside pressure, insisting that is simply how the system works. The Royal Belgian Football Association said it was stunned, and it asked FIFA for exactly one thing: a written explanation. What happened next might be the strangest single detail in this entire saga, and it barely made headlines outside the soccer press. FIFA wrote back and informed Belgium that its request for an explanation had been logged as a formal appeal. A judge had already been assigned. Belgium was given until 5 a.m. Pacific time to submit its case. Belgium had never actually asked to appeal anything. They had asked why a decision was made. Hours before kickoff, FIFA's own appeal committee threw the appeal out, ruling that the Belgian Federation wasn't a party to the original case and therefore had no standing to appeal in the first place. Read that sequence again slowly. FIFA converted a simple question into an appeal, then dismissed that appeal on the grounds that the people asking the question were never entitled to appeal to begin with. Belgium's official statement did not mince words. FIFA, they wrote, created an appeal and then made certain it would be thrown out. Their letters pointed to Article 66.4 of FIFA's own disciplinary code and to Article 10.5 of the World Cup competition rules, both of which state that a straight red card carries an automatic ban, and both of which echo Circular Number 16 almost word for word. While the world argued about a stamped ankle, something quieter was unfolding on FIFA's own website. 2 officials from the United States Federation were suspended ahead of that same match, the team manager and the vice president of security, with no explanation offered by either FIFA or the American Federation, both of whom simply redirected every question to the other side. Balogun himself was fined $40,000, partly for walking back onto the field to celebrate after already being sent off. UEFA, European football's governing body, released a statement saying the decision had crossed a red line, warning that when the people entrusted with guarding the rules stop being seen as impartial, the credibility of the entire sport is put at risk. Even one of the sport's most respected former referees weighed in publicly, arguing that red cards should be overturned through rules, evidence, and independent panels, never through a political phone call. Jurgen Klopp put it more bluntly still. "This is our game," he said, "not theirs." Balogun started against Belgium. The United States won 4-1 in Seattle, in front of the largest television audience any soccer match has ever drawn in American history. Afterward, the Belgian Federation's official account posted the final score alongside 2 words: "Overturn this." 4 letters filed, then came Egypt. On the 7th of July in Atlanta, Egypt led Argentina 2-0 with 11 minutes remaining, 11 minutes from the first World Cup quarterfinal appearance in the country's history. Earlier in the match, Mustafa Mohamed had put the ball in the net, only for video review to overturn the goal, ruling that a foul had occurred on the far side of the pitch roughly 20 seconds before the ball crossed the line. Then Mohamed Salah went down under a challenge from Julian Alvarez. No penalty was given. Moments later, Enzo Fernandez scored for Argentina. The reigning champions completed a stunning comeback to win 3-2 and advance to the quarterfinals at Egypt's expense. Egypt's head coach, Hossam Hassan, did not soften a single word afterward. He told reporters his team had been cheated, that they had been wronged, that he saw no fairness and no respect for the sport in what had happened. He suggested, without offering proof, that someone wanted the reigning world champions to stay in the tournament, and he announced he would not watch another minute of the World Cup. Mustafa Mohammed went further still, saying publicly that he believed the tournament was fixed, though this remains his personal opinion and an unproven allegation rather than an established fact. The Egyptian Football Association, led by its president, Hani Abu Rida, formally filed against French referee François Letessier and his entire officiating crew, including the video review team, demanding both an investigation and their removal from the remainder of the tournament. 5 letters, 5 federations. And this is roughly where the story stops being purely about referees, because a 6th letter had already landed on Zurich's desk, and it might be the one that should worry FIFA most of all. In the round of 32, Croatia faced Portugal, and deep into stoppage time, Joško Gvardiol appeared to score the equalizer that would have saved their tournament. The referee awarded the goal on the field, then video review took it away. Mario Pasalic was ruled offside because a sensor embedded inside FIFA's own official match ball detected the faintest touch, not a header, a touch, off the hair of Igor Matanovic in the build-up. The Croatian Federation wrote directly to Infantino. Their spokesman, Tomislav Pakak, said something no other federation had stated quite so plainly. They weren't complaining about the individual decisions themselves. They were complaining about the process that produced them, calling it, in their words, an abuse of technology. It's essentially the same underlying argument Brazil made about video review, that Belgium made about Article 27, and that Iran made about border crossings. The written rules aren't necessarily the problem. The problem is who those rules get enforced against, and when and by whom, without ever having to explain themselves in writing. On the 9th of July, FIFA finally responded, though not to the letters directly, but to the growing public noise around them. Pierluigi Collina, widely regarded as one of the greatest referees the sport has ever produced, and now the man overseeing FIFA's entire officiating department, gave an interview published on FIFA's own website. "A foul is a foul," he said, "and if an on-field referee misses it, video review exists precisely to step in." He characterized the contact on Salah as normal, incidental football contact. Then he delivered the line that will likely define how this tournament is remembered. "Nobody," he said, "can question the integrity of FIFA World Cup match officials, and nobody can claim that FIFA refereeing can be influenced by anyone, not even by the president of FIFA himself." He was answering Egypt. FIFA had already ruled on Belgium's case, but ruling on something is not the same as actually answering it, and Belgium still has never received a written explanation for why the reversal happened in the first place. Collina did not address Croatia's complaint about the ball censor. He did not address Iran, Ecuador, or Brazil at all, because in every one of these 6 letters, the referees were never really the actual complaint. None of the 6 federations has accused a single official of taking a bribe. A corrupt referee would be a simple story, one bad actor, one clean fix. What 6 federations, writing in 6 different languages with nothing else in common, are effectively saying is something far larger and far harder for FIFA to dismiss. That this World Cup appears to be operating under one set of rules on paper and a completely different set of rules in practice. And that whoever benefits from that second, unwritten set of rules has so far refused to put any of their reasoning in writing. As of this week, Circular number 16 still technically exists. It still states in plain language that a straight red card carries an automatic one-match ban. It was sent to all 48 competing federations on the 12th of May. Only one of those 48 ended up getting a phone call instead of a punishment. The quarterfinal round is now underway across the country, with matches this weekend in Miami and Kansas City, among other host cities, and the tournament rolls on toward its final in New Jersey later this month, with the trophy still very much up for grabs. Argentina continue to play, Belgium continue to play, though Belgian officials have publicly hinted they have not ruled out escalating their dispute to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, the highest legal body in international sports, a step that would take the fight over Balogun's ban far beyond FIFA's own internal committees and into an independent court entirely. Whether Belgium actually files that case, and whether any of these 6 federations ever receives the written explanation each of them formally requested, remains completely unresolved as the tournament heads into its final stretch. Because the final score of a football match gets decided over 90 minutes on the field. But the actual rules governing that match, it turns out, get decided somewhere else entirely, in a room in Zurich that 6 different national federations have now, for the first time in the history of this competition, formally demanded the right to see inside.